Hi there guys, this is the Average Joe, and today I wanted to talk to you about the future of dictatorship and how China is turning into a dystopia. So, before I get started, please uh, subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to give a thumbs up, hit that little bell button notification so you can receive notifications from me. And I wanted to say that this video idea came from a commenter of mine. He posted a comment on the last video I've made. I'm going to put the link here to the video. Thank you, Alessandro. Actually, your comment and what I've commented on it, what I've responded to you, is what sparked the idea for this video. So let's get it started. So guys, in my opinion, we can see now China turning into one of those science fiction novels about a dystopia scenario. This is happening, and it is possible because of the crazy leap that they have made in surveillance technology and in the artificial intelligence domain. Well, as a fact, let's talk about some facts now. From the year of 2014, China admitted they are working on a social credit system. It's a system of crediting people regarding on where they should fit on the social scale, and it starts with a credit of 1,000, and you get points retracted considering your actions, what you do, what you talk, and how you do, how you act. The idea is that the Chinese government wants all its citizens to act alike, think alike. Every Chinese citizen should only dream the Chinese dream that is set up by the party, and people should not should only stay on the line that the party draws, should not move away from it. Well, a very dystopic scenario is that China declared that they want to predict who will commit crimes in the future. It's a crazy scenario, something like we had in Minority Report, where starring Tom Cruise, where Tom Cruise was a police officer and he was arresting people for the crimes they were going to do the next day or in a short period of time. What is a crime in China? You're saying, okay, well, that's very liberal, a very liberal notion of crime is, for example, if you make jokes about the president Xi Jinping, you might actually get 2 years in prison. That is a crime. You're probably wondering, how can that work? How can you obtain such a level of control on a population of 1.4 billion people? Well, in the age of today, it is actually simpler. Okay, it's not simple in a Western world. It's simpler in the Chinese world and in the Chinese way of doing things than you might believe. Um, the main factor that will help the Chinese government control all its 1.4 billion people, it's the AI, the artificial intelligence. Um, how is that going to help them? Well, artificial intelligence is used and is going to be used. I'm going to tell you a little bit later how it's used for the moment. But the idea is that artificial intelligence can process an enormous amount of data, and through collecting big data, you cannot process a person, a company without the help of artificial intelligence cannot cope with the data of 500,000 people. Okay, it's almost impossible. But if you have artificial intelligence and computers that are strong enough, you could eventually process the data of 1.4 billion people. Now, I was talking about artificial intelligence and processing of big data. Big data. Well, most of us can actually remember the Cambridge Analytica scandal that hit the US presidential election, and that showed that big data was used in order to influence people in elections in many other countries, India, Pakistan, Romania, uh, Greece, France, and plenty of other countries. Well, if you can use big data to influence people and to control people without the help of artificial intelligence, or with a limited help from artificial intelligence, consider what's going to happen if you can develop a artificial intelligence system smart enough and powerful enough to process data from 1 billion people. You can actually control 1 billion people. Okay? The idea is that while big data for the moment is processed only for, let's say, a handful of selected information that companies collect from Facebook and from Google accounts and from wherever about different people, considering very specific criterias, and they write programs to search for one specific criteria. Artificial intelligence can actually develop patterns and can help, how should I put it? If you want to research for, say, somebody wanting to betray the Chinese government, instead of having 1,000 programs that define each and every one what is a treacherous behavior, artificial intelligence, through learning, starting from a set of 10 criteria, might itself reach a set of 1,000 criteria. And even if you didn't know you need to collect that big data, the artificial intelligence can collect that big data for you using data available from companies, from, I don't know, let's say in the Western world, Facebook, WhatsApp, Google Maps, Waze, and every other kind of program people use. And this is way simpler in China, where people tend to use WeChat. Talking about the big data that gets analyzed. In the last 4 years, we know there are two big Chinese companies, Massive and Senstein, that got a huge leap in facial recognition programs, and they say that their programs can analyze 104 points on a person's face, and that makes them more capable of recognizing a person even than a human being. That is why for a moment, if you see protesters in Hong Kong wearing all sorts of crazy things on their face, crazy masks, it's because they are trying to not let these programs scan their faces and keep their identity and keep their identities secret. For a fact, there are about 700 million Chinese people right now that do not need to pay with a card when shopping. They can pay with their face. For me, it's a miracle you can pay with a contactless card. No, they can literally pay off the top of their nose. Let's say that. You can pay with your face at KFC and at McDonald's. This is thanks to the Alipay system. The Alipay system helps recognize each and every individual's face, and it connects it with their account, and so they can make payments with a smile. Let's say that. There are also big railway stations when you can only enter after your face gets scanned, and hotels also do it automatically in many cities, in many parts of China, so that they can ensure that you are who you say you are. And actually the Chinese government is boosting the fact that in the last few years, they had about 3,000 criminals, convicted non-criminals, that were captured thanks to the facial recognition system on the cameras on their streets. This might seem a very good thing, and one other thing that they boost is the fact that the Chinese government was able to identify one individual that was convicted of financial fraud in a stadium, in the crowd of a stadium, through its facial recognition system. And that, if we take it in a manner, if we consider it to be used only for good, that can be pretty encouraging. But if you consider that these systems, these facial recognition and artificial intelligence systems can be used also for the bad, well, then we get a pretty scary scenario. I'm sorry, I'm trying to read from a notebook I took notes on, because I don't really know all these things off the top of my head. I had to do a bit of research for this. Well, one other thing, at the end of 2019, the Chinese government announced that they have succeeded in making a 500 megapixel camera. 500 megapixel. We know we have cameras with 50 megapixels. Your cell phone has, I don't know, 20, something like that. That has integrated artificial intelligence, and that this 500 megapixel camera can scan each and every individual face in a crowd of tens of thousands of people. One camera that has artificial intelligence built in is capable of scanning tens of thousands of people and finding one specific individual in that group. Data from the Chinese government tell us that in 2018, the Chinese government had about 200 million cameras, surveillance cameras, on the street of their cities, and they have declared that by the end of 2020 there will be about 600 million cameras. I don't know if you can actually perceive this number, 600 million cameras, and there are 1.4 billion Chinese people. That's like one camera for every 2,000 people. All these 600 million cameras and the government's control on internet and on communication will actually lead to a total control of the population, or total surveillance. For example, we in Europe and in many we in Europe use WhatsApp to talk to other people. There are various other programs. Well, the Chinese have WeChat. It also started as a kind of how should I put it? A kind of WhatsApp which was meant to be safer and you could talk to people. But a few years ago, there were dissidents that were using WeChat, and the government succeeded in controlling this platform, succeeded in controlling the information that went through the platform, and it actually made arrests based on things that were said, that were written on WeChat. And after that, the WeChat platform evolved. It evolved into a WhatsApp, a Facebook, a online banking system. You can get loans on WeChat. You can even pay money to a beggar on the street using WeChat, because you can scan a barcode that the beggar will show you and you can transfer money. So basically WeChat turned into a app that has everything you need on a smartphone. And by being controlled by the Chinese government, they mainly got access to everything that people post. Using AI, with all the data they get from WeChat and all the data they get from their facial recognition system, well, artificial intelligence could develop into a weapon that has no smell, that you can't hear, that you can't see, just like a virus, but a weapon that collects and controls data on all the population. I've told you before that the Chinese government is working on a social credit score for each and every individual. Well, they've had plenty of iterations by now. The idea is that if you live by the rules which you cannot do. If you live by the line drawn by the party, you can do whatever you want. You can fly, you can go visit other countries. But if you get flagged and you get in the sights of the authorities, each and every misbehavior of yours is going to be sanctioned, and you're going to get less and less freedom with every misbehavior you have. And that will lead to people almost not being able to make 2 steps in freedom. Well, considering that the Chinese law is almost impossible not to break, the law is written just so everybody can be a potential criminal. There is the possibility of ethnic cleansing inside Chinese. There is a minority in East Turkmenistan, I believe they call the region. I don't know exactly the official name of the region, but it's a region where many Muslim people live, and the Chinese government was involved in some scandals regarding the fact that they treat these people as criminals most of the time. There are laws that say you can't pray too much, you can go to prison for having a beard, you can go to prison for having too many people at, I don't know, a wedding. In this region, there are control points, artificial intelligence controlled control points, somewhere about 200 meters each from one another. Well, until 2014, or 2014 or 2015, the Chinese government released a statement when it was saying that they were harvesting organs of their death row inmates, of the people that they have executed. One thing is that from this region there were about between 1 million and 3 million people that were sentenced to death. People in this region can go to prison basically based on what the artificial intelligence says, and this is the first region in China where arrest warrants are made by the system automatically. They don't go through a verification. Okay, maybe they at some level they go through a verification stage, but the arrest warrants are mainly issued by the artificial intelligence system. So this is exactly what was happening in Minority Report. People were getting arrested for crimes that they were going to commit, or for what the system was considering them. Practically their arrest warrants were emitted by the system automatically, by artificial intelligence. This way you can see that today's China is turning actually to become, is on its way to become tomorrow's dystopia, and this is probably the way our history is going to be shaped, with every communist and every dictatorship country trying to emulate this system. And in the near future, we will probably see more dictatorships taking on the path of the Chinese people, because as we all know, dictators love to control their people, and at this moment technology makes it possible. Uh, we should actually consider the fact that if we continue to have this artificial intelligence unchecked without a ethics guide, if you've lived in the 2000s, if you probably all lived in the 2000s, at the beginning of the new century, and the end of the old one, there was the case with cloning, when science people succeeded in cloning a sheep, and that raised many alarms regarding, is this moral or is this not moral? Well, artificial intelligence is actually a step just like cloning, and we should define very clearly what it is allowed to do with artificial intelligence and what's not allowed to do, and enforce it, because it can be used as a weapon and it can be used in less than moral ways. So, considering what I've told you about how China is evolving from a dictatorship to a dystopia scenario, you can probably go and search a little more information than I did, and if you want to comment, please, I would like to see your comments to spark a conversation, and I'd like to have every one of you more and more connected to what's happening around us. Now guys, those were my thoughts on dictatorships turning into dystopia scenarios. There's plenty more to talk about this, but that's what I wanted to say for the moment. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, give it a like, please hit that subscribe button, and if you want to see more videos from me, hit that little bell button so you can receive further notification. Thank you, and see you next time, guys.